everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to be speaking from NSA South Potomac with Chaplain Salito and his wife Rita. I'm Julia Apicella, and I'm the Fleet and Family Support Center Work and Family Life Specialist. Today we're going to be talking about ways that you can, kind of some tips for you to have an organized household during COVID and keep the peace at home. So Chaplain Salito and his wife Rita are going to be giving us some tips on what they do in their home and kind of help us navigate through these questions that people have had.
Hey everybody, I'm Chaplain Jeremy Salito, and this is Rita.
Hi everyone.
And just a quick backstory for us. We've been married for 19 years. And been doing this Navy thing now for about 10. Obviously, COVID has been a big wrench for us. So we're both been teleworking, and we got 3 kids at home. So, question about
what if somebody suspects somebody is going through domestic abuse? What would you recommend that they do for the person?
So do you mean like a neighbor or friend or family member?
Yes, exactly. Or maybe even a family member if they've revealed that this is taking place, or if they suspect, they see bruises maybe, or the person's just more depressed than ever and doesn't seem to be getting out of it. What is something that they can do to get help for them or even for themselves in this situation?
Well, I'll say first that there's a National Domestic Violence Hotline, and so I'm sure we can put a little banner at the bottom of the screen with that number. That's 1-800-799-7233. That's 1-800-799-7233, and again, we'll put that as a banner on the bottom of the screen. So if you're a family member, I'd say encouraging that person to maybe open up to you, would you say? Or would you say just encourage them to go and make that call?
I would encourage them to make the call. And you could call as well as the family member. And they'll talk you through strategies and ways to help the person, or what to do, what not to do. They'll talk you through that. And they'll, provide you with resources in your community. And of course, there's always Fleet and Family Support and the Family Advocacy Program that you can reach out to as well for assistance. I think the most important thing is just to remember that patterns of abuse are ingrained, and they can be hard to get out of. Oftentimes, there's mental, emotional, and verbal abuse that's all happening at the same time, and so the strategy to try to exit that is a multidimensional approach, and people really need support to be able to get out of that relationship in a safe and healthy way. Sometimes they can be dominated, their phones can be watched, their internet communication can be watched, their social media can be tracked. So you want to be mindful of that. And so just being encouraging and support, and really just bringing in outside resources is going to be the most important thing. And ultimately, it's up to the person in the relationship to make the decision. You can't make it for them. The only thing you can do is just be of support for them. And the same thing for suspected child abuse. You can reach out to social services. Every state will have a 1-800 number that you can call. We can put those up as well, that you can reach out to report abuse. It's anonymous. You don't have to give any of your information. It's just helpful if you have a name and address, and a name, address, and possible phone number of the victim.
And of course, we should say, in case someone is concerned that, this might adversely affect my life. I'm not quite sure if I'm ready for all of those dominoes to fall, but I do want something to change. They can reach out to the chaplain. The chaplain is a 100% confidential resource. I'm not a reporter, and so in some way they can kind of let the cat out of the bag without all of a sudden all the rest of the dominoes falling. So chaplain here is another great way, and we could put the number up there as well for the chapel for that.
Yeah, and I would just like to say, if you are experiencing abuse, or somebody you know is experiencing abuse, that there are people out there who really want to help and people who care. And you're not alone. I think there's a lot of people going through a lot of difficult times right now, and they just don't have the resources, or they don't feel like they have the support to reach out. But there are people who do this for a living. There are people who want to help you make this transition and help you not fall through the cracks. So I just hope that you would take that as care and compassion and reach out, because there are people who really want to be there for you.
That's some great information. Thank you for sharing that. It's oftentimes very hard for people to have that conversation. So you've given resources for them to reach out to, even for the person who's not experiencing it, but maybe witnessing it, so that they can have those difficult conversations. So thank you for that. And now I kind of want to talk about some parenting issues that we're having right now during this situation with COVID. And you have 3 children at home right now, all in school, so you're experiencing it along with everybody else. So how have you explained this situation with your children, and how is their mental health right now that they've had to stay home and had an extra long summer and stuck in the house and everything? How's it been going for you guys?
Their mental health, I'm not quite sure about. I know they're driving me crazy, but so everybody processes this kind of thing differently, and so I had a senior enlisted person one time, a long time ago, say not to bring them along. He didn't want to bring his family along on the emotional roller coaster of for him, for his career. And I found that really informative about how much I share with the family, like with this and with the kids. And so they hear a lot. So if they're on YouTube, if they're on they're just talking to friends, they're talking about it. I know our 9-year-old decided he didn't want to do soccer anymore because he was afraid of catching COVID. And so just trying to manage the why are we wearing masks, and why are we not going out like we used to? Why can't we go to the beach even though it's the summer? Why is the pool closed? And so I'd say we share, but I think it's we try to manage a little bit, like how much, and not and still keeping it hopeful and positive. Yeah, like it's gonna be okay, guys.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's also important to kind of recognize what your own feelings are about the situation. A lot of times in different trainings, they want to know what you're feeling about, like, how are you feeling about the situation? Like, for example, in foster care, if you want to be a foster parent, you have to go through the training and you have to look back over, what was it like growing up in your household? What were the things that you experienced, so that like, oh, this is how probably I might be impacted as a parent. And the same thing kind of applies here. You need to know how you're being impacted by the virus and how it's affecting your emotional, your emotional health, so that you can realize that might be impacting them as well. And so just kind of checking in with yourself if you're feeling anxious, recognizing the emotions, I think can be helpful for helping, just being aware of that can be helpful. And then the other thing is, I think just oftentimes as parents, we will either dismiss our children's concerns because we don't want them to be worried. So we might say to them, like, don't worry, it'll be fine. You're going to be okay. But when we do that, we invalidate them. And when we invalidate them, they still have those worries and concerns. They don't go away. It just means they're less likely to talk to you about it. So if anything, if your child comes to you and says, I'm really worried, or I don't know, I don't know how this is going to turn out, just recognizing that and say, yeah, it's really scary right now. We don't necessarily know how this is going to turn out, but we do know that there are things that we can do to help take care of ourselves. So empowering them to feel like they've got some sense of agency, some sense of control in the situation. Just encouraging them, like, yes, it's scary. Yes, I would be anxious too. We're all anxious. You're not alone. Everybody's feeling that way. Just really validating those emotions and then empowering them to say that they have control. So we can wear a mask, we can social distance, we can, take vitamins to help our immune system. There are things that we can do to protect ourselves. The government's working on a vaccine. That can be helpful. Like, there are plans and strategies in place to get us through this. So just encouraging them, validating them, recognizing their emotions as real, I think is really important.
That's some really good advice and good tips too for having those conversations with your children instead of assuming they won't understand it. Because like you said, they're hearing everything, so they should hear our interpretation of it, not other people's. So that's very good advice. What are some hints you might have for studying at home with your children right now?
Oh, so like staying organized?
Yes.
Everyone's studying, everybody's working. Where do we begin on that one? Say what? Yeah, you start. You got something ready.
I think it's helpful to have some dedicated workspaces.
Oh, yeah.
So if you can, within your home, carve out some dedicated workspace for them, whether it's a desk or a part of the table. I've seen people get real creative where they've gotten the trifold poster board things that people use for science projects, and they put those up, and they put schedules and Post-it notes and helpful things to create an organized space. I know other people have little desks for their kids. I think it depends on the age demographic of your child, but I definitely think a dedicated workspace can be helpful. So it feels like there's a lot of times there doesn't feel like much delineation or separation between home life, work life, school life. So anything that we can do to give ourselves some structure and routine and being like, okay, this is my space that I do school. Just having that structure, I think, can be really helpful as far as organizationally speaking. Emotionally speaking and change speaking, I think just being flexible. I don't think there's no right way for this to go. Mm-hmm. There's no right way for this to happen. And it's going to feel chaotic and it's going to feel stressful. And that's okay, because no one's doing this right. And if you don't feel like you're doing it right, that's okay. And so just being, the Marine motto is Semper Fi, and the military spouse and family member motto is Semper Gumby, always flexible. So even in this situation, we're going to have to be really flexible. And you may find that certain things work for your family and other things don't. And that's okay. Especially if you have multiple children. If you have a middle school, a high school, and an elementary school, and you're trying to manage 3 separate schedules of children doing virtual schooling,
plus a workload,
you're going to have to give yourself a lot of flexibility, a lot of grace, a lot of room to breathe. In fact, do some deep breathing. That can be really helpful. And just be willing to adjust and be willing to make a decision that works for you. If you need to pull your kid out and do homeschooling because that works better for you, then do that. It's okay to make a choice that's different than the choice that you're making right now. Just give yourself the time and freedom to figure out what that is.
Would you say that there is a balance between having structure and making structure the goal? Because, this past spring semester, when we were both working at home, but then also all the kids were school at home, and they had their own school schedules. We had a middle schooler, and even both elementary kids as well had these dedicated meeting times. And so I got so married to the schedule, oh my gosh, and then the structure, okay, this kids need structure, I gotta provide structure. And then the structure was just blowing up because my kindergartner was just melting down emotionally, and everybody was just not having a good time. So I felt like a failure for initially because I couldn't keep the structure going. So is there a balance between providing structure or making structure the goal?
I think structure is important. I think that's, it's always important. We do better in routine. Children especially do better with structure and organization and routine. But I think more for our own emotional, stability, I think just being willing to recognize that it's okay if your structure doesn't work as well as you wanted it to, and just be willing to adapt.
Yeah.
Just be willing to adapt and recognize that you might feel like it not working well as a personal reflection of yourself, but it's really not. It just means you need to adapt.
Yep.
Exactly. I think that's the theme through this whole thing, the Semper Gumby. be flexible.
Right.
Have patience too. You need
That's
to be
right.
patient and don't freak out because your schedule got messed up. It'll still be okay.
That's right.
So if you want some actual hacks, you can use your Alexa. Set up reminders in your Alexa for different things. That way you know certain things are
that's
happening
good.
at certain times.
Yeah, or Siri.
Or Siri, yeah. So we
anything like
had Alexa every day at certain times sounding off on different things for the kids. And then we had a dry erase board, of course, and we'd kind of draw lines. Okay, so this is this kid's stuff. And we're getting reminders, and this kid's stuff, and their reminders. So that, hey, it'd be good if we got these things done, and Alexa helps us to remember those things. But it's going to be okay if they don't.
That's some really good techniques to use right there, the whiteboard and everything. I like that. So I think that brings us to the end of our interview this time, but I'm sure I have many more topics I could speak with you about in the future, and I hope to do more videos with you. But for now, I just want people to know that if you want to reach out, you can reach out to Fleet and Family Services. You can reach out to your chaplain on your base, and then we're there for you. Also, we have a Facebook page at South Potomac. It's called NSA South Potomac Chapel, and you can put questions on there or send a private message, and we'll get back to you. So I look forward to seeing you guys later on in more of these videos. And thank you for watching. Thank you.